Formula One is in Mexico for the Mexico GP at the Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez track. And this track is well known for its Peralta corner, which is a high-speed corner that has a little steep incline, and in that it gathers quite a large amount of speed, as well as some long straights that the track will have and some slower corners. This track's also well known to not have the greatest visibility due to the situation with the tree line. Nonetheless, in qualifying, there was a little bit of drama with people stopping in the middle of pit lane, as well as a poorly timed yellow that feasted on some of our normal contenders. Also, we had a race in which Sergio Perez struggled and continued his struggles, and at his home race, nonetheless, as Ricciardo decided to just show up this weekend and out-qualify Sergio. Also, we see Ferrari improving their pace. Will that continue as well? Tune in as I discuss all things Mexico Grand Prix and more. How's it going, guys? Hope you're having a great week coming off of the Austin GP, and we are here in Mexico, where the storyline is, or at least was a couple weeks ago, that Sergio Perez was going to retire after this weekend. That did not happen. Also, people making rumors that Fernando Alonso is going to take Perez's seat. I'm not saying Perez will still have his seat, but I just think there's just a lot of rumors going around because people are bored, to be honest. But nonetheless, we have Mexico GP really hoping for a bounce back, a week for Mercedes, who kind of got hosed last week with, I didn't get hosed, they hosed themselves, I guess, and some of the people with the plank issues are looking for some answers, especially Aston Martin with their struggles recently. A lot of teams searching for answers, and a lot of teams trying to continue their success, such as some of the Ferraris and their pace, as well as the McLarens. Nonetheless, let me touch on qualifying for like 2 seconds. Alonso spins out, kind of a poorly timed yellow, people randomly stopping the pits. With all that being said, notably Norris does not make it out of the first qualifying session of the Q1, and that was very unfortunate. So he's going to be climbing quite a bit during the race, and you guys will talk about that a little bit later. Albon gets his time deleted as well as him. Alonso, Yuki, Gasly, and Hulkenberg are being bumped. Alonso they just can't seem to figure it out, and notably Albon not making it out of Q2. And then in Q3, Red Bull is ahead early with a 1-2 punch early in for the beginning part of that session in Q3. But then you see both Ferraris jump the Red Bulls, and they actually just keep that lead from there. And so both of the Ferraris lead the way the rest of the way, and Leclerc gets pole. And so this is the first time in, I think it was like over a decade or something like that, they said some number, of somebody getting pole here, consecutive poles in Mexico. And so props to Leclerc for doing that. Notably, Ricciardo out-qualifies Sergio Perez at his home track, and that was quite a bit of drama, quite a bit of discussion on Twitter on that. And, props to Ricciardo. I think, second race back from his injury, and in an inferior AlphaTauri car is able to show up and slap it on the table and say, this is who I am. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to compete. And so props to him. Honestly, he's the kind of guy that he just kind of wears his emotions on his sleeves, and sometimes he gets a little bit of hate, but honestly, if he's going to drive like that, it's hard to hate on him. But let's see how the race squared away. I would say that you're going to be looking for Norris to climb. He's got a fast car generally. I think he just had poor timing with the yellow and all things with qualifying. Also, Ferrari showing pace. I don't know if that's going to qualify over the race pace. And then looking for Sergio Perez to do well, even though he maybe got out qualified. Maybe he's going to show up, and him and Ricciardo are going to have some awesome battle throughout the race. So that's what I was looking for going into the Mexico GP. But let's talk about it. So on the start of the race, we see Max get a pretty good jump, and he ends up splitting the Red Sea of Ferraris, splits Sainz and Leclerc. Leclerc gets kind of caught up on the outside, and in that, Sergio Perez gets a really good run on Leclerc and tries to force 3 wide in turn 1, which is, with how bulky these cars are, it's very difficult to do and execute. Ends up getting up and over Leclerc's tire, and he ends up getting airborne and takes himself out of the race. The fans are booing like crazy. The fans are booing Leclerc. I mean, what do you expect Leclerc to do? He's sandwiched in between Max and Sergio. There's not really much place for him to go. Sergio's taking all this inadvertent risk at the first lap of the race. let's chill out, get on the podium for your home race. So I think that's a blunder by him. He can't really blame anybody else but himself, in my honest opinion. But this not only takes Sergio out early, but this also gives Charles some damage. I don't know to maybe what extent the damage was, but he had a pole-winning car, and now he has a car that's pole-winning but has made contact with somebody. So that's going to impact him, especially in a Formula One car. But Yuki is going to actually cause a brief yellow right after that. Not right after that, but shortly after that. And as he gets off track, that's very brief. Hamilton's going to get Ricciardo on a pretty good move inside on lap 11. And really things start to settle down quite a bit from here. And there isn't super crazy contention for Max. Nobody's really competing with him for the lead. He kind of has that. And it's more so, okay, how are the Mercedes going to be able to show up? Okay, where the Aston Martin's going to shake out in this middle part of the race. And then, Stroll's already starting from the pits. And so that comes into play. But then also, okay, let's watch Lando Norris just go ham on the rest of the field. And that's kind of what happened. So let's talk about that. And so in the beginning of the season, I was slightly regretting my McLaren choice of fandom, but I don't regret it anymore. It's really fun to see Lando race, and Piastri didn't have a great weekend rather, but they maybe didn't have like winning, contending pace. But definitely, I think Lando, if he did not get hosed during qualifying, could have possibly gotten on the podium. And but besides that, it was really cool to see him kind of carve through the back and middle part of the field, and really avoiding a lot of the drama that happened in the beginning of the race. It's really easy when you start further back in the field to get into some shenanigans early, even if it's just a very brief contact. It could take you out of the race. We've seen that before. So props to Lando, staying out of trouble. But then, he made some really cool passes, passing Bottas on 29, lap 31, getting Albon. And Magnussen ends up getting off track and causing a red. So Lando started his ascent, and then this red comes into the picture as Magnussen gets off for a little ride a few laps prior, and then the next lap ends up getting into the wall. But he had a rear suspension failure, and so it was no fault of his own there. But that was on lap 33. His suspension gave out, and then they throw the red flag, and Max Verstappen was not happy about the red flag. I wouldn't be either if I accumulated a crazy lead and then the whole field just gets squished back together. With a virtual safety car, that would not happen. But nonetheless, lap 36, a couple laps later, we get the restart. And I don't know if you guys find it weird or not, but Magnussen's car was on fire. He got out of the car quite early, but there's no safety team. I'm just so used to a safety team watching Indycar, Nascar, and other series. It's just kind of weird that the most prestigious series there is doesn't have a safety team, which is interesting. I don't know what you guys think about that. But nonetheless, Max gets a very good jump on the start. And I'm bringing this up when I'm talking about Lando because he did very poorly in the start. Ended up losing 4 positions on the start, so he made his job even harder, which gives him even more. They gave him, gives him credit. You gotta give him credit because he really worked his butt off for this, driver of the day kind of thing. But Hamilton gets Ricciardo and gets very racy off of this, and in this we see Hamilton. He has a lot of pace, and he's bringing this off of last weekend where he did have pace. I think he had pace because he had weird smears on his plank. I think everybody probably had that issue. I'm not going to get into that though. Anyways, Mercedes is showing that they have pace. Hamilton ends up getting Ricciardo, gets a little racy there, and then makes another great pass in a very similar spot on Leclerc. So he made a pass on Leclerc on the inside there, right before that turn, and he made that same pass earlier in the race as well. It was just kind of cool to see him, but this time he caught up some dust there, which was kind of cool. But lap 48, Yuki and Piastri get into it a little bit, and they have a little moment, a little contact, and this is actually going to continue a couple laps to come here. I think Yuki's pressing a little bit because Ricciardo's doing better than he is, and with Yuki having more time in the car, you'd anticipate Yuki would be doing better. I think he's pressing, to be honest with you, a little bit. And nonetheless, their battle continues. until around lap 49, where Yuki really tries to push it on the outside. It cuts a little bit close and ends up spinning himself out as he gets into Piastri. And then Norris, after getting passed by Albon on the start, gets Albon again after losing that spot. Then we see Oscar give his spot around lap 56, about 15 or so laps to go, gives his spot to Norris, and so Norris can continue his ascent there because it seems like Lando has a little bit more pace there. Then lap 60, Norris gets Ricciardo, and Ricciardo is running up front pretty much all day, and so Norris really clawed his way all the way up here, and he's where he belongs. And then by lap 67, 7 laps later, Norris gets Russell. And so sometimes I feel like when people start further back in the grid and they get the driver of the day, I'm like, you know what, they had a great car, and they, you know what, of course they're going to pass everybody when they're so much faster. Max Verstappen. But this situation I feel like is a little bit different because I don't think Lando's car is that much better than some of his peers, and he was still able to, you know, work very hard through a red, through a lot of a couple of yellows, some situations going on, and he could have easily got caught up in that. And I think he really had to work hard for this and had to be pretty perfect. And, you know, I guess he wasn't perfect, but still was able to get to where he was. But then we see Stroll gets into Bottas and spins him out, and now both Aston Martins are out of the race as Fernando was having some issues earlier on. And that kind of brings us to the end of the race. There wasn't like, I feel like the focal point was really watching Lando really make his ascent, and then with the red and then the yellows, that kind of encapsulated the race. But let's get into the results, and then I'll talk about my thoughts. All right, so let's get into the results of the race. And so to start off, we have Max Verstappen getting another win here, and was able to pull a 13-second gap between him and Lewis Hamilton. And so Lewis had a pretty good race, being able to fend off the Ferraris and even beat his teammate and Ricciardo as well in that. And so good drive by him. Charles and Sainz both finishing a race back-to-back here, and so that's props to them getting a podium, but getting pretty high up in the points, especially after that battle's gotten a lot closer in recent races. And then we have Lando Norris getting 5th place, working his way up from pretty much back the field, and so props to him on that. And then George Russell getting 6th. Daniel Ricciardo, still a good day for him. I know he may not have finished as high as he wanted to, but honestly, he got a lot out of the car for what he had there. Oscar Piastri, really not his weekend, getting 8th. Alex Albon finishing 9th, getting into the points for Williams. Esteban Ocon getting in 10th for the Alpines, and Pierre Gasly just missing out on the points in 11th. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th, even despite that spin he had, still getting 12th. Could have been a lot worse there. Hülkenberg in 13th. Both Alfa Romeos 14th and 15th. They qualified 9th and 10th. I'm sure that they hoped to at least have one of their drivers in the points, but no dice there. Logan Sargent, 16th, Lance Stroll 17th, Fernando, Magnussen, and Sergio all DNFing here towards the end. Not towards the end, but all DNFing. And so really what are my thoughts on the race? Really a 1 or 2 stop strategy kind of race, and with the red and how it kind of timed out, it seemingly benefited a lot of the leaders. And in that, really the focal point and the entertainment came from watching our boy Lando Norris climb up the field, and maybe seeing if Ricciardo can make something of something, and then Hamilton eventually catching the Ferraris. But Max didn't have too much contention throughout the day, even on the restarts. And that all being said, you can't complain when there's a red and there's some yellows to mix things up. It just didn't fall in the way of the unpredictable this time around. Maybe it will in the last couple of races. We'll see. It'd be nice to see another new winner in Formula One in the next last couple of races of the season. But so what did you think of the Mexico Grand Prix? Let me know down in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. I believe 98% of you aren't subscribed. So go ahead and do that. Help me get a couple more subscribers, as I'm going to be posting all things motorsports throughout the coming months. And so go ahead and tune in with me as I finish out the Formula 1 season, but also get into the off season and other endeavors. And so thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next video.